Marcus Wellington had always believed that money could solve any problem. As he sat in his private jet flying back to Chicago, he stared out at the clouds below and wondered if that belief would hold true today. The call from his daughter Emma's school had shattered his peaceful morning in Tokyo. 8-year-old Emma had collapsed during recess and was rushed to the hospital. "Sir, we'll be landing in 20 minutes, his assistant Jennifer informed him from across the cabin. Marcus nodded without looking away from the window. He had left Chicago 3 weeks ago for a series of business meetings across Asia, expecting to be gone for another week. But nothing mattered more than his little girl. The Wellington mansion stood imposing against the gray October sky as Marcus's car pulled into the circular driveway. He had built this house 5 years ago, after his wife Catherine died in a car accident. It was meant to be a fresh start for him and Emma, but lately it felt more like a beautiful prison. The 40-room mansion was too big, too quiet, and too empty without Catherine's laughter echoing through the halls. Marcus rushed through the front door, his heart pounding. The marble foyer was silent except for the ticking of the antique grandfather clock. Where was everyone? Where was Emma? "Emma," he called out, his voice echoing off the high ceilings. "Emma, Daddy's home." He took the stairs 2 at a time, heading toward Emma's room. The hallway was lined with family portraits, images of happier times when Catherine was alive and their family was complete. Marcus barely glanced at them as he hurried past. Emma's bedroom door was slightly open. Marcus pushed it wider and stepped inside, expecting to find his daughter resting in bed. Instead, the room was empty. The pink bedspread was neatly made, and her stuffed animals were arranged perfectly on the window seat. Where could she be? A soft sound caught his attention, gentle humming coming from somewhere nearby. Marcus followed the sound down the hall to the small sitting room that connected Emma's bedroom to what used to be Catherine's art studio. The door was ajar, and, through the gap, he could see movement inside. Marcus pushed the door open quietly and froze at the sight before him. Emma was lying on a small couch, covered with a soft yellow blanket. Her face was pale, and she looked smaller and more fragile than he remembered. But what stopped Marcus in his tracks was the woman sitting beside her. Rosa Martinez, their housekeeper, was gently stroking Emma's hair while humming a lullaby. Rosa had worked for the Wellington family for 3 years, ever since Catherine's death. She was a quiet, hard-working woman in her early 40s who had immigrated from Mexico 10 years ago. Marcus knew very little about her personal life, other than that she had a teenage son and was saving money to bring her mother to America. What shocked Marcus wasn't just seeing Rosa there, it was the tender, maternal way she was caring for Emma. Rosa's dark eyes were filled with genuine concern and love as she watched over his daughter. She was speaking softly in Spanish, words that Marcus didn't understand but that seemed to comfort Emma. "Mija, your papa will be home soon," Rosa whispered, switching to accented English. "He loves you so much. You are his whole world." Emma stirred slightly and opened her eyes. "Rosa, my tummy still hurts," she said weakly. "I know, little one. But you are strong, just like your mama was. She is watching over you from heaven, making sure you get better." Marcus felt his throat tighten. He hadn't heard anyone speak about Catherine to Emma like that. In his grief, he had avoided talking about Catherine, thinking it would be too painful for Emma. But here was Rosa, keeping Catherine's memory alive in a way that brought comfort instead of sadness. "Will you tell me the story about the butterfly again?" Emma asked. Rosa smiled and began speaking in a gentle voice. "Once upon a time, there was a beautiful butterfly who lived in a garden full of flowers. The butterfly loved to dance from flower to flower, spreading joy wherever she went. One day, the butterfly had to fly far away to a magical place where all the most beautiful butterflies lived. But even though she couldn't be seen anymore, her love remained in the garden, protecting all the little flowers and making sure they grew strong and beautiful." Emma's eyes fluttered closed as she listened. "Mama was the butterfly," she whispered. "Yes, Mija. And you are her most precious flower." Marcus stood frozen in the doorway, overwhelmed by emotion. This woman, whom he barely knew beyond her work duties, was providing his daughter with something he had failed to give her: emotional comfort and a connection to her mother's memory. He thought about the past 3 years since Catherine's death. He had thrown himself into work, traveling constantly, building his empire while telling himself he was securing Emma's future. He had hired the best nannies, enrolled Emma in the most prestigious school, and given her every material thing she could want. But he had failed to give her what she needed most: his presence and emotional support. Rosa continued to hum softly, her hand gently stroking Emma's hair. Marcus noticed how natural and loving the gesture was, as if Rosa had been caring for Emma her whole life. It reminded him of how Catherine used to comfort Emma when she was scared or sick. Suddenly, Marcus felt like an intruder in his own home. Here was his daughter, receiving the kind of maternal care he couldn't provide, from a woman he had barely taken the time to know. Rosa was doing far more than her job description required. She was filling a void in Emma's life that Marcus hadn't even realized existed. "Papa." Emma's voice brought Marcus back to the present. She had spotted him in the doorway. "Emma, sweetheart." Marcus rushed to her side, kneeling beside the couch. "How are you feeling?" "I came as soon as I heard." Emma reached out her small arms, and Marcus gathered her into a gentle hug, careful not to hurt her. She felt so small and fragile in his arms. "I got sick at school," Emma said, her voice muffled against his chest. "But Rosa took care of me. She made me soup and told me stories about Mama." Marcus looked up at Rosa, who had quietly stepped back to give them privacy. Her expression was respectful but guarded, as if she wasn't sure how he would react to finding her in such an intimate moment with Emma. "Thank you," Marcus said to Rosa, his voice thick with emotion. "Thank you for taking care of her." Rosa nodded. "It was my pleasure, Mr. Wellington. She is a special little girl." "Rosa has been with me all day," Emma said, snuggling closer to her father. "She didn't leave me alone even though she had other work to do. She said that's what mamas do, they stay with their babies when they're sick." Marcus felt a sharp pain in his chest. When was the last time he had stayed home when Emma was sick? He tried to remember, but couldn't. There had always been an important meeting, a crucial deal, an emergency that required his attention. He had always left Emma's care to nannies while he handled what he considered more important matters. "Mr. Wellington," Rosa said quietly, "the doctor said Emma has a stomach virus. It should pass in a day or two. She just needs rest and lots of fluids. I gave her some mild medication the doctor prescribed." "You took her to the doctor?" Marcus asked, surprised. "Yes, sir. When the school called and couldn't reach you, they called me as the emergency contact. I took her to Dr. Peterson right away." Marcus realized with shame that he didn't even know Rosa was listed as an emergency contact for Emma. When had that happened? How had he become so disconnected from the basic details of his daughter's care? "I should get back to work now," Rosa said, starting to move toward the door. "Dinner will be ready at 6, as usual." "Wait," Marcus said, standing up. "Rosa, please stay. I need to understand what happened today. I need to know how you knew what to do." Rosa paused at the door, looking uncertain. "I am sorry if I overstepped, Mr. Wellington. I know I am just the housekeeper, but Emma was frightened and needed someone." "No," Marcus interrupted. "You didn't overstep. You did exactly what needed to be done. You were there for her when I wasn't." The weight of that admission hung heavy in the air. Rosa's expression softened with understanding, while Emma looked back and forth between the two adults, sensing the importance of the moment without fully understanding it. "Papa, are you sad?" Emma asked, reaching up to touch his face. Marcus managed a smile. "No, sweetheart. I'm grateful. Rosa took very good care of you today." But, inside, Marcus was struggling with a flood of emotions he had been suppressing for years. Guilt over his absence, admiration for Rosa's natural caregiving abilities, and a deep sadness that he had missed so many important moments in Emma's life.
As the afternoon wore on, Marcus watched Rosa interact with Emma.
He saw how Emma's face lit up when Rosa entered the room, how she seemed to instinctively trust and feel comforted by the older woman's presence. Rosa wasn't just caring for Emma's physical needs, she was providing emotional support, telling stories, singing songs, and creating a sense of warmth and security that had been missing from their home.
"Rosa," Marcus said when Emma had fallen asleep again, "how long have you been taking care of Emma like this?"
Rosa looked uncomfortable, as if she was worried about getting in trouble.
"Since you started traveling more frequently, sir."
Emma would get scared at night sometimes, and the nannies, they were good at their jobs, but they weren't maternal.
"What do you mean?"
They fed her, made sure she did homework, kept her safe. But when she cried for her mama, or when she had nightmares, they didn't know how to comfort her. So I started staying later, helping with bedtime, being there when she needed someone to listen. Marcus felt another stab of guilt. I didn't know she was having nightmares.
She didn't want to tell you because she knew you were working hard. She's a very thoughtful little girl, Mr. Wellington. She loves you so much and doesn't want to be a burden.
The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. His 8-year-old daughter thought she was a burden to him.
How had he failed so completely as a father?
"I've made a terrible mistake," Marcus said, more to himself than to Rosa.
"What do you mean?" Rosa asked gently.
"I thought I was being a good father by working hard, by providing for Emma's future.
But I've been absent when she needed me most. And you've been filling that void." Rosa was quiet for a moment before responding. "Mr. Wellington, you are a good father. You love Emma very much, anyone can see that.
But sometimes, love needs to be shown in small, everyday moments, not just in big gestures."
Marcus looked at Rosa with new eyes.
This woman, whom he had thought of merely as hired help, possessed a wisdom about parenting that he lacked. She understood Emma's needs in a way that he had failed to. "Tell me about these nightmares," Marcus said, settling into a chair across from Rosa. "They started about 6 months ago," Rosa explained.
"Emma dreams that everyone she loves disappears, just like her mama did. She wakes up crying, calling for you.
But you're usually traveling, so I come to her room and hold her until she falls back asleep."
6 months ago, Marcus repeated. "That's when I started the expansion into the Asian markets. I've been traveling almost constantly since then." "Yes, sir."
Marcus realized that his increased travel had coincided with Emma's emotional struggles. While he was building his business empire, his daughter was battling fears and loneliness that he knew nothing about.
"What else don't I know?" Marcus asked. "What else has been happening in Emma's life while I've been away?"
Rosa hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with the conversation.
"I don't think it's my place to." "Please, Rosa. I need to know. I can't fix what I don't understand." Rosa took a deep breath. "Emma is struggling in school. Not with academics, she's very smart. But socially.
She has trouble making friends because she's afraid they'll leave her, like her mama did. The other children think she's weird because she sometimes talks to herself, but really, she's talking to her mama's picture." Marcus felt tears welling up in his eyes. His daughter was in emotional pain, and he had been oblivious to it.
"She also," Rosa continued quietly, "she sometimes asks me if you might disappear too. She's afraid that one day you'll go on a business trip and never come back."
The words broke something inside Marcus. He thought about all the trips he had taken, all the times he had left Emma with barely a goodbye, all the promises to be back soon that he had broken when trips extended longer than planned. "I need to change," Marcus said, his voice barely above a whisper.
"I need to be a better father." "You are already a good father, Mr. Wellington. You just need to be present. Emma doesn't need more toys or a bigger house or fancier clothes. She needs you."
As if summoned by their conversation, Emma stirred and opened her eyes.
"Papa? Are you still here?"
"Yes, sweetheart.
I'm not going anywhere."
Emma smiled, a genuine smile that lit up her pale face.
"Good. Can we watch a movie together?" Rosa knows all my favorite ones.
Marcus looked at Rosa, who smiled encouragingly.
Of course we can. What would you like to watch?
As they settled in to watch Emma's favorite animated movie, Marcus found himself studying Rosa more closely. She wasn't just an employee, she had become a surrogate mother to Emma, providing the love, comfort, and emotional support that his daughter desperately needed. And she had done it without recognition, without extra pay, simply because she cared about Emma's well-being. For the first time in 3 years, Marcus felt like he was exactly where he needed to be, at home with his daughter, understanding finally what it meant to truly be present in her life. But he also realized that this awakening had come at a cost. In his absence, another woman had stepped into the maternal role in Emma's life, and Emma had formed a bond with Rosa that was deeper than he had ever imagined. As the movie played and Emma dozed against his shoulder, Marcus made a silent promise.
He would learn to be the father Emma needed.
And he would find a way to honor Rosa's incredible contribution to his daughter's life. The question was, how do you thank someone for loving your child when you failed to do so yourself? The next morning brought a soft October rain that tapped gently against the windows of the Wellington mansion. Marcus woke earlier than usual, not because of his typical 5 a.m. alarm for conference calls with Tokyo or London, but because he had promised Emma he would make her breakfast himself. For the first time in months, his phone remained silent on the nightstand. Marcus made his way downstairs to the kitchen, a room he rarely entered except to grab a quick cup of coffee before rushing off to the office. The massive space, with its marble countertops and professional-grade appliances, felt foreign to him. He opened several cabinets before finding the one that held dishes, and then spent another few minutes searching for Emma's favorite cereal. As he stood there, overwhelmed by the simple task of preparing breakfast, he heard soft footsteps behind him. "Good morning, Mr. Wellington," Rosa's voice was gentle but surprised.
"You're up early. Is everything all right?"
Marcus turned to find Rosa already dressed in her simple work clothes, her dark hair pulled back in its usual neat bun. She looked tired, and Marcus wondered if she had stayed up late worrying about Emma. "I wanted to make breakfast for Emma," Marcus said, holding up the box of cereal like evidence of his good intentions.
Rosa's expression softened. "That's wonderful. She would love that.
But, perhaps, would you like me to show you how she likes it prepared? She's particular about these things." Marcus felt a flush of embarrassment. He didn't even know how his own daughter liked her cereal.
"Yes, please. I'd appreciate that." As Rosa moved around the kitchen with practiced efficiency, Marcus watched carefully.
She warmed the milk slightly because Emma didn't like it too cold. She added exactly 1 teaspoon of honey because Emma thought regular sugar was too boring. She cut fresh strawberries into star shapes because stars make everything taste better, as Emma had apparently declared months ago.
"How do you remember all these little details?" Marcus asked, feeling increasingly inadequate.
"When you spend time with someone every day, you learn what makes them happy," Rosa replied simply.
"Emma is easy to please.
She just wants to feel special and loved." The word stung because Marcus realized he hadn't been providing either of those things consistently. He had been showering Emma with expensive gifts from his business trips, designer clothes, exotic toys, rare books, but he had missed the simple daily interactions that actually mattered to her.
"Rosa," Marcus said as they waited for Emma to wake up, "can you tell me about your son? You mentioned him yesterday." Rosa's face brightened immediately. "Miguel. He's 16 now. Very smart, like Emma. He wants to be an engineer." "Where is he?"
"He lives with my sister while I work here. It's better that way, I can work longer hours and save more money for his education." Marcus felt another wave of guilt. Rosa was sacrificing time with her own child to care for his daughter, and he hadn't even known she had a son. That must be difficult, being away from him.
Rosa's smile faltered slightly.
"Yes, but it's necessary.
Miguel understands.
We video call every night, and I visit on my days off.
He's a good boy." "When was the last time you had a real vacation, Rosa? Time off to spend with Miguel?" Rosa looked uncomfortable, as if the question itself was inappropriate. I don't need vacation, Mr. Wellington. I have a job to do here. That's not what I asked. Rosa was quiet for a moment. It's been about 2 years. But, truly, I don't mind. Emma needs stability, especially with all the traveling you do for business.
Marcus realized that Rosa had been essentially on call 24 hours a day for 2 years, sacrificing her own family time to provide stability for his daughter. The weight of this realization was crushing.
Papa. Emma's voice called from upstairs, interrupting his thoughts. Coming, sweetheart. Marcus called back, carrying the perfectly prepared breakfast upstairs on a tray. Emma was sitting up in bed, looking much better than she had the day before.
Her color had returned, and her eyes were bright with excitement. "You made me breakfast," she exclaimed, clapping her hands together. "Rosa helped me learn how you like it," Marcus admitted, setting the tray across her lap.
Emma took a bite and smiled. "It's perfect." "Rosa, did you teach Papa about the star strawberries?" "I did," Rosa confirmed, standing in the doorway. As Emma ate, she chattered happily about her favorite parts of the movie they had watched the night before. Marcus found himself truly listening to her words, rather than just nodding absently while thinking about work emails. He discovered that Emma had sophisticated thoughts about the characters' motivations and had noticed details in the animation that he had completely missed. "Papa," Emma said between bites, "are you going to go away again soon?" The question hit Marcus like a punch to the gut. "Why do you ask?" "Because you always go away after you come home." "Rosa says it's because you have important work to do, but I wish the important work could happen here sometimes." Marcus looked at Rosa, who was carefully not meeting his eyes. "What if I told you that you're more important than any work I have to do?" Emma's face lit up with hope. "Really? Does that mean you'll stay home?" "I'm going to try very hard to do that." "In fact, how would you feel about staying home from school today so we can spend time together?" "Really?" Emma bounced excitedly on the bed. "Can we do art?" Mama's art room is still exactly like she left it. Marcus's chest tightened. "You want to go into Mama's art room?" "Rosa takes me there sometimes. She says Mama would want her brushes and paints to be used, not just sitting there getting dusty." "We've been working on a painting together." Marcus looked at Rosa in surprise. He had kept Catherine's art studio exactly as she had left it, thinking of it as a shrine to her memory. He hadn't realized that Emma even wanted to go in there, much less that she had been creating art with Rosa. "Can I see this painting?" Marcus asked. Emma nodded eagerly. After she finished breakfast, she led Marcus and Rosa down the hall to Catherine's studio. Marcus hadn't been in this room since the week after Catherine's funeral, and stepping inside was like traveling back in time. Everything was exactly as Catherine had left it, brushes still stained with paint, a half-finished canvas on the easel, tubes of paint scattered across the work table. But, in the corner, on a smaller easel that Marcus didn't recognize, was a new painting. It was a family portrait, painted in Emma's careful 8-year-old style but with unexpected sophistication in the color choices and composition. The painting showed Marcus, Emma, Catherine, and Rosa standing together in a garden. Catherine was depicted with angel wings, watching over the other 3 figures with a gentle smile. "Emma," Marcus whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "This is beautiful. Rosa helped me with the hard parts, like Mama's face and the flowers. She's a really good artist too." Marcus turned to Rosa, who looked embarrassed by the attention. "You're an artist?" "I studied art in Mexico before I had to leave," Rosa said quietly. "It was a long time ago. Why did you have to leave?" Rosa hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. "My husband, he was not a good man. When Miguel was born, I knew I had to get us somewhere safe. Art doesn't pay bills, so I learned to clean and cook instead." Marcus began to understand the depth of sacrifice Rosa had made. She had given up her artistic dreams to protect her son, and now she was nurturing artistic expression in his daughter while her own talents remained hidden. "Rosa, this painting Emma created with your help, it's remarkable. You have real teaching ability." Thank you, Rosa said simply. Emma tugged on Marcus's sleeve. Papa, can we paint something together? Rosa can teach you too.
For the next 2 hours, Marcus found himself sitting at Catherine's old work table, learning to mix colors and apply paint to canvas under Rosa's patient instruction. Emma giggled at his clumsy attempts at drawing, but Marcus didn't care. He was completely absorbed in the moment, focused entirely on his daughter's laughter and Rosa's gentle guidance. As they painted, Marcus learned more about Rosa's life. She had grown up in a small village outside Guadalajara, where her father was a tile painter and her mother was a seamstress. Rosa had shown artistic talent from an early age and had earned a scholarship to study fine arts at a university in Mexico City. But when she met Emma's father, a charming man who turned violent after they married, her dreams had taken a back seat to survival. I never regretted leaving, Rosa said as she helped Marcus fix a color that had turned muddy. Miguel's safety was worth more than any career I might have had. And, now, taking care of Emma has brought joy back into my life. She reminds me why art matters. It helps us express feelings we can't put into words.
Is that why you started the painting with her? To help her express her feelings about Catherine? Yes. Emma was having trouble talking about her mama.
She would bottle up her sadness and, then, have nightmares. Art gave her a way to process those emotions safely. Marcus realized that Rosa had not only been providing practical care for Emma, but had been serving as an unofficial therapist, helping his daughter work through grief and trauma that he hadn't even recognized existed. Rosa, Marcus said, setting down his paintbrush, I need to ask you something important.
When Emma was in the hospital yesterday, when the school couldn't reach me, how did you know to go to her? Rosa's expression became guarded again.
I told you, they called me as the emergency contact.
But, how did you become the emergency contact? I don't remember authorizing that. Rosa was quiet for a long moment, clearly struggling with how much to reveal. Finally, she sighed. 6 months ago, Emma had an allergic reaction during a field trip. The school called you, but you were in meetings in Singapore. They couldn't reach your assistant either. Emma was frightened and needed someone, so I went to the school and told them I was her nanny. The nurse asked if I could be listed as an emergency contact in case something like that happened again. And you said yes. I couldn't let Emma be alone and scared. She's just a little girl.
Marcus felt a familiar stab of guilt.
What kind of allergic reaction?
Strawberries, but only fresh ones, not processed. She ate a strawberry tart at lunch. Her face swelled up and she had trouble breathing. The school nurse gave her medicine and she was fine, but she was very frightened.
Marcus stared at Rosa in shock. Emma is allergic to strawberries?
But you made strawberry stars for her cereal this morning.
Those are dried strawberries, processed differently. They don't cause the same reaction.
Emma and I figured that out together through trial and error. Marcus realized that Rosa knew more about his daughter's medical needs than he did. She had been managing Emma's healthcare, educational needs, and emotional well-being while he remained blissfully unaware of any problems.
What else don't I know, Rosa? What other emergencies have you handled without telling me? Emma looked up from her painting, sensing the tension in the room. Papa, why do you sound upset? Rosa always takes good care of me. She knows everything about what I need. I'm not upset with Rosa, sweetheart. I'm upset with myself. Why? Marcus struggled to find words that an 8-year-old could understand. Because a daddy should know these things about his little girl. Rosa has been doing my job while I was away. Emma's brow furrowed with confusion. But Rosa isn't doing your job. She's doing Mama's job. The simple statement hit Marcus like a lightning bolt. Emma wasn't seeing Rosa as a replacement for him, she was seeing Rosa as a replacement for Catherine. In Emma's mind, every family needed a mama and a papa, and Rosa had stepped into the maternal role that had been vacant since Catherine's death. Emma, Marcus said carefully, what do you mean Rosa is doing Mama's job?
Mamas take care of you when you're sick, and make sure you eat the right foods, and help you with feelings, and teach you about beautiful things like art. Papas work hard and bring home money and give hugs and protect you from scary things. But you've been doing Papa's job far away, so Rosa has been doing Mama's job here. Marcus looked at Rosa, whose eyes were filled with tears. She had been serving as Emma's surrogate mother for months, perhaps years, and Emma had unconsciously assigned her that role because it was what she needed.
Is that okay with you, Rosa? Marcus asked quietly. Being like a mama to Emma?
Rosa wiped her eyes.
It is an honor, Mr. Wellington.
Emma is a special child, and I love her like she was my own daughter. But she is not my daughter, she is yours. And she needs her real father to be present in her life. She needs both, Marcus said, finally, understanding the situation fully. She needs a father who is here, and she needs the maternal care you've been providing.
The question is, how do we make this work for everyone, including your son Miguel?
Rosa looked surprised.
What do you mean?
I mean that you've been sacrificing time with your own child to take care of mine.
That's not sustainable, and it's not fair.
We need to find a solution that honors your dedication to Emma while also allowing you to be present in Miguel's life. Emma, who had been listening intently while continuing to paint, suddenly looked up with bright eyes.
Could Miguel come live here too? This house is really big. He could have his own room and everything.
Marcus and Rosa both stared at Emma, surprised by the suggestion.
Emma, it's not that simple. Rosa began. Why not? Emma interrupted. Rosa is like my mama here, so Miguel would be like my big brother. We could be a real family.
Marcus felt his breath catch. Emma's innocent suggestion revealed how deeply she had been thinking about family dynamics and how much she craved the stability of a complete family unit.
What do you think about that, Rosa? Marcus asked. Would Miguel be interested in living here?
He could attend the private school where Emma goes, and you could have a proper suite of rooms instead of just a bedroom.
Rosa's eyes widened. Mr. Wellington, I couldn't, that would be too much. Why would it be too much?
You've been providing invaluable care for my daughter. You deserve to have your son with you.
And maybe Miguel could help me understand how to connect with Emma better. Teenage boys have insights that us adults sometimes miss. Emma bounced excitedly.
And Miguel could teach me about boy things, and I could teach him about art. Marcus watched Rosa's face carefully. He could see the longing there, the desire to be reunited with her son, warring with her sense of propriety and fear of overstepping boundaries.
Think about it, Marcus said gently. Don't give me an answer now.
But consider that this might be good for everyone. Emma gets the family structure she's been craving, you get to be with Miguel, and I get help learning how to be a better father. As they finished their painting session, Marcus reflected on how much his life had changed in just 24 hours. He had come home expecting to find his daughter recovering from a simple illness, and instead had discovered a complex web of relationships and needs that he had been oblivious to. Rosa had been filling a crucial role in Emma's life, but at great personal cost.
Emma had been struggling with emotional issues that Marcus hadn't even recognized.
And he himself had been failing as a father while convincing himself that financial success equated to good parenting. But, perhaps most importantly, he had discovered that love and family could take many different forms. Emma's innocent painting showed all of them together, father, daughter, deceased mother, and surrogate mother, as one unit.
Maybe that was exactly what they needed to be.
3 days later, Marcus found himself doing something he hadn't done in years, sitting in his home office on a Thursday afternoon, working remotely while Emma played nearby. He had cancelled his trip to Frankfurt and rescheduled 2 board meetings, decisions that had sent shockwaves through Wellington Industries. His assistant Jennifer had called 3 times to confirm he was feeling well. But Marcus had never felt clearer about his priorities.
As he reviewed quarterly reports, he could hear Emma in the next room practicing piano with Rosa.
The sound of his daughter's laughter mixed with Rosa's patient encouragement was more motivating than any profit margin he had ever achieved. His concentration was broken by the sound of the front door opening and unfamiliar voices in the foyer.
Marcus frowned, checking his calendar. He wasn't expecting anyone. Mr. Wellington? Rosa's voice called from downstairs, accompanied by footsteps on the marble floor.
Marcus made his way downstairs to find Rosa standing with a tall, lanky teenager who shared her dark eyes and gentle expression. The boy was looking around the mansion with wide eyes, clearly overwhelmed by its size and grandeur.
Miguel? Marcus asked. The teenager straightened and extended his hand politely. Yes, sir. Miguel Martinez. Thank you for allowing me to visit.
Marcus was struck by the boy's composure and manners. Despite being clearly nervous, Miguel maintained eye contact and spoke clearly.
Rosa had raised him well.
I told Miguel about your offer, Rosa explained, her voice carefully neutral.
He wanted to meet you and Emma before making any decisions.
Of course.
That's very wise. Marcus turned to Miguel. What do you think of the house?
Miguel glanced around the opulent foyer with its crystal chandelier and marble staircase.
It's very beautiful, sir. But very large.
Too large, sometimes, Marcus admitted. It can feel empty with just Emma and me.
Mama says you have been very kind to our family, Miguel said carefully. But I want to make sure I understand what you're offering. I don't want charity. Marcus smiled, impressed by the boy's directness. It wouldn't be charity, Miguel.
Your mother has been taking excellent care of my daughter, often going far beyond what her job requires. If you lived here, you would be part of our household, not a guest or a charity case.
But what would be expected of me? Nothing more than being a good student and a positive influence for Emma.
She's always wanted a big brother. As if summoned by the mention of her name, Emma came running down the stairs, stopping abruptly when she saw Miguel.
Are you Rosa's son? She asked, suddenly, shy. I am, Miguel replied, his serious expression softening. And you must be Emma. Yes. I drew you a picture.
Emma ran back upstairs and returned with a drawing showing stick figures of herself and Miguel playing in the garden.
Rosa told me you like to build things, so I drew us building a treehouse. Miguel studied the drawing seriously. This is very good. Do you really want to build a treehouse? Emma nodded enthusiastically.